Hello, hello. Today is our next to last meeting. Oh my gosh, like school year is really flying by. And so today is our fourth professional development for our PD series for learning, understanding, getting more comfortable and confident with using the LMI and how this can be applied to school counselors. So today, like I was saying, is the fourth session. So I am going to share my screen so we can get started. Okay. All right. So once you log into your Educate account, remember that you are able to click right here on courses, and then all of the courses should populate for you. So far, we have completed the welcome and introduction, the future of work, a course for school counselors, and then using LMI to connect to the future of work. Today, we are doing the learning to use LMI for New Mexico school counselors. And remember, as you click on each section of this, you will continue to track until you complete it. And then the very last step is the quiz that you take. And for all of my school counselors who complete all of the modules, there is a professional development certification that you will receive. All right. So this is module 3, learning to use LMI. So in this lesson, we will cover stuff like staying connected to work, basic terms and definitions, identifying high value careers, and then using P2C to discover local high value careers. Again, the P2C can be located directly on your New Mexico School Counselor's website. As soon as you click on that page, you can open, let's see, I always like to show you all because, sometimes we all just need to see it just for a reminder. So whenever you click on the New Mexico School Counselor's website, right here is that P2C navigator that you can click on, and you will have full access to this amazing tool that is extremely supportive and will be beneficial when you are working with all of your students in whatever setting, whole group, classroom, small group, or one-on-one. All right, so staying connected to work. Here are the key terms that we are going to discuss. In every lesson, they always identify key terms, and this is going to help us to understand more about the impact of future work, and then understanding these key terms as it relates to preparing students for employment success and creating awareness around high demand, high wage jobs that aid students in making informed career choices. All right, so employer demands. This is the result of skill shortages and skill mismatch, resulting in some jobs going unfilled. Skilled labor. Highly trained, educated, or experienced segments of the workforce that can complete more complex mental or physical tasks on the job. All right, so staying connected with work is becoming increasingly important. And the fundamental changes are occurring in the workforce landscape that are being fueled by rapid advances in technology, globalization, environmental challenges, and a number of social and economic factors. These changes are contributing to a demand for skilled labor. And this is identified as degrees and certificates. These will increase in value. And then individuals will need specific skills. Educational institutions will need to stay up to date and connected with employer demands to prepare students for successful entry into the workplace. So understanding this labor market information is one of the most reliable methods of connecting with work. The power of LMI is most evident in the ability to discover local high-value careers and occupation needs. And this is exactly how school counselors can utilize this tool by showing students, increasing awareness, saying, hey, here's access to this. Let's learn more about your interests and the area you want to go into. Now let's figure out what the demands are, what the wages look like. Again, this is all about supporting students to make informed and knowledgeable career choices. So learning to use LMI can be simple and straightforward. So again, we need to become familiar with basic terms and definitions, develop strategies for identifying high-value careers, explore LMI using an appropriate database or system. And, luckily for you all in New Mexico, this system, right here at your fingertips is the P2C, the Navigator. Of course, there are others out there, but again, the P2C Navigator has already, curated all of this, extremely important information that is very specific and detailed to your area. And then establish methods for sharing and applying LMI in everyday practice. So here's where you can start to think, how can I start to use this information? How can I build this in to my curriculum? How can I build this into my activities, my lessons that I'm doing with students? How can I show students how valuable the LMI is and how to increase their overall awareness? So the reflection for this first section is, start to think, do you agree that LMI exploration is one of the most direct and reliable methods of connecting with work? Is this a reliable and direct way for you to find out valuable information about local jobs and opportunities, demand, high wage, and how you can connect it with your students? Again, this tool is right at your fingertips. So is this something that you can use and implement with your students? And if so, how can you use this LMI in your current institution to ensure students are connected with employer demands to prepare for successful entry into the workplace? So how can you use this with your students? That's the most important thing right there. And again, this is with classroom guidance lessons, small group or individual lessons. Just getting students used to seeing the maps of their communities, of where they are, and understanding how to read the data and what the different colors mean. Because at first, I know, like when I first started looking at the Navigator, it was kind of a lot to take in, looking at the different worksheets and just the different layers that come with it. So again, helping students to understand what they're looking at, increasing their knowledge and awareness for it, and then just showing them how this information can support them moving forward. I think that that's absolutely the first step. And then from there, incorporating it into your lessons when you're talking about career choices or even scheduling, when students are thinking about those electives, those CTE courses, and maybe you have a list of all of the CTE courses, electives that are offered, and then you have the LMI right there with you. And you say, well, what are your interests? What are you curious about learning? And then maybe they can select, from the offered courses and then plug that in to see what career options are available, what careers look like in that field, and just to get basic information about, even the demand, the wage, and then dig deeper into, hey, if this is what you're interested in, let's see maybe how you can get involved now and to help you grow and learn in this direction. So that's just one thing that I think about and how I could use this with my students. All right, so in this lesson, we review basic terms such as employer demands and skilled labor. You also review the steps and strategies when using LMI to discover local high-value careers and occupation trends. All right, next section. So the key terms and definitions for this section will provide an overview of to serve as a foundation for the labor market exploration. So we're going to start again by reviewing these key terms. All right, so here are quite a few, and you probably heard of a lot of these, but it's always great to kind of refresh and understand exactly what they mean, because this can definitely support us when we're working with students to discuss career and even like college and scheduling courses, all of that. It all works together. All right, so career clusters. As we know, there are 16 different career clusters. Now, career clusters group jobs together based off of their similarities in foundational knowledge and skills. So they are similar to a certain extent, and the knowledge required in order to be successful and understand this career job, it will all relate to each other in terms of like education, coursework, and things like that. So they are very similar. Okay, so here is a link that will take you to the career clusters. Again, throughout these lessons, throughout the PD, there's tons of resources. Once you log into the site from your end, you have full access to this, and this is information that you can pull up for yourself whenever you want to check it out. So that is the career cluster. Career pathways. So within each cluster, you have pathways that have been identified to focus on like smaller groups of occupations. So these pathways, again, this really aligns similar courses and training programs that can guide students towards a career goal. This is a career pathway that can have multiple entry and exit points. So once you enter inside a career pathway, the pathway is still huge, right? And so it's not like, when you go into a pathway, once you enter, there's several different doors that you can enter. It's not just one occupation, one pathway that you have to select and go down once you enter. And that's like the beautiful part of a career pathway, is because it still allows you a variety of different opportunities within that same kind of field, that cluster. And then some careers have minimal education requirements, while others require advanced degrees. All right. So with that being said, the great thing about being in these career clusters, again, multiple entry and exit points, but that also means that you still have that variety. It's not, oh, if I go down this pathway, I have to go to college, or I have to go and earn this certification. You still have a variety. Like you have different layers all within the pathway, which really makes it interesting and helpful for students. And then lastly, it outlines courses and training programs that guide student progress toward career goals. And here you can click to figure out different information about, this is Minnesota's, but it has some very reliable information that you can review. Now, programs of study. This is a more comprehensive focus outline of the courses and trainings that lead to specific careers. Programs of study typically result in a certification or degree that provides entry into a field of work. And again, we have a link there that you can review more. Labor market information. This is the collection of data compiled primarily by government agencies for the purpose of analyzing job trends, wages, employment status, and economic changes related to workforce development. The labor shed. This is the region of work, a region within your state, your community, where individuals live and work. The labor shed for each school district determines the local region for LMI exploration. So typically where students go to school, this is what they focus their like the parameters around to see where people live at, and then how far they drive for work, like how far their commute is, because that's valuable information to see how many people stay local and then how many people branch out. Local region, workforce region. All right, so the LMI is not typically reviewed for specific districts or counties. Information from districts or counties is often too restrictive and limited. All right, so it's too small of a space for them to kind of get enough of their information. The smallest areas for which meaningful LMI is most often reviewed are workforce regions. Most states are divided into workforce regions where local workforce needs are monitored and supported. When supporting local LMI, it is typically for the local workforce region. So here in New Mexico, you all have 4 different workforce regions. You have Central, Northern, Southwestern, and Eastern. Annual openings. This is the average number of job openings projected each year. And as we've seen before, whenever we're looking at our LMI reports, you can see that this is typically, highlighted, is indicated above. These are the occupations, the cluster, and then you have your annual openings. Median wages, this is the projected annual income that this occupation will provide. Okay. Projected new jobs. This is the numerical change in job openings over a period of time. And typically this is a 10-year window that's projected. Growth rate. This is the percent change in employment expected over a period of time. Again, typically 10 years. Job zone education. This is the indicator of the amount of education, training, and experience needed. And again, the great thing about the P2C and the reports is that everything is beautifully laid out for you all to see. And right here in a chart, I mean, really, you can just look straight across and get exactly what you need. And then based off of this, you're able to identify those high value jobs. And again, remember, high value are jobs that are in high demand, but also have high wage. And also remember, high wage jobs are classified as jobs that have an annual income of at least $35,000. So how does it all fit together? So the career clusters framework. So we have our career clusters. These are jobs that are classified according to those foundational skills. And then we have our pathways. And then we have the programs of study. So career cluster, pathways, and then I can just click on it. See, that makes it easy. I'm trying to go in and squinch to try to see it. So the career cluster is here, the pathways, and then these are like the programs of study, career specialty examples. And of course, we have provided you all with some additional resources that you all can review. A lot of these are the same as from the previous lessons that we've covered, because these are some of the most reliable sources that we find, especially when it comes to obtaining this LMI information. All right, so all of this information unlocks high value career destinations. And again, that's what we want to know, because when we understand more about the LMI, then we can educate our students. And when we educate our students, this helps them to go out into the world, into society with a better understanding and with that knowledge, so that they can be confident when they are making informed decisions about how they choose to, fulfill, their interests, their dreams, and what they decide to do as far as a career. So we're going to show you how. So in this lesson, you were presented with a number of terms and definitions, and I showed you a lot of the resources. And again, we talked about the career clusters, pathway, and programs of study. And, as school counselors, these are things that we typically talk about with our students, just trying to narrow things down. We can start broad with that career cluster, and then we can start to kind of filter things out through the pathways, and then get a little bit more specific with the programs of study until ultimately, they reach a destination where they feel extremely comfortable and feel like that they will be successful, maybe going down a more specific in a more specific direction. All right, so now we are going to go to the next lesson, and this is identifying high value careers. So we are going to start off again with our key terms. And for these key terms, it's going to help us to understand more about sorting, analyzing, and evaluating growth indicators to determine the direction of demand for an occupation. Again, we've talked about, especially a lot last week, we talked a lot about, the future, understanding trends. And again, that goes back to increasing awareness and being knowledgeable. Trying to keep up with the trends and the way that society is going can sometimes be hard. Like, we don't know when all of these changes and things are coming. Sometimes we can see them and, we can feel like things are shifting. Like for the longest, it was, oh my gosh, one day we're going to be like the Jetsons. And, it wasn't overnight, but we slowly start to see things, grow and develop, even with like how fast our computers were processing, how small they got, cell phones and all the different things that we can do on them now that we used to not be able to do. Many years ago, sending a text message, one, would cost you a whole lot of money. And two, it took you a long time because, if you were trying to say hi, sometimes you had to press that number key a couple times to get to the right letter that you wanted to get to. But all of that to say that our world is forever changing. And as school counselors, one thing that we can do is to try our best to remain knowledgeable and aware of these trends and how things are shifting, so that we can support our students with the choices that they make and, guide them towards these high value careers, and try not to, put them in a situation where they enter a career field that may be, dying or struggling to find a job. Maybe the demand isn't there, because that's one of the, that could be very frustrating, especially if students go to a 4-year university or even going through like a certification process. If they go all the way through it and then can't find a job because there's no demand for it and things like that can be frustrating and discouraging. And so I think that, it's part of our job, again, to remain aware, knowledgeable, and to be sure that we are sharing this information with our students. So high value careers. This creates value through innovation to meet real underlying needs, produces products and services that are sustainable over time. So these jobs, we're going to see them, they're lasting, they're sticking around. High demand careers, careers for which there are numerous openings. High wage careers, one in an industry or occupation in which the average wage is at least 50% higher than the overall average. So a high value job, again, is a job that is in high demand and high wage. To successfully identify high-value careers, effective search strategies for both high demand and high wage careers need to be applied. All right, so this is just some reminders for how we can review the LMI reports. So again, high demand, there's lots of openings. So that indicator is right here, the annual openings. We're looking right here at the data. And then sort and review. So we can sort this from highest to lowest just to keep it organized. And then those occupations that are highest in demand will appear at the top. And now job growth. This is how fast that job is going to grow. This is the projected new jobs growth rate, but also be aware that large, small growth does not always mean large, small demand. So for example, we are looking here at the diagnostic medical sonographers. This is in health science. Annual openings is 72. We see this wage, good wage, that's a nice wage, right? 72. Projected new jobs, 102. So right now there's only 17, but they are projecting that 102 jobs are going to open up. This is a 29.23% growth rate. So, and education zone is 3. So you're going to have to go to school, go, at least for a couple years, get a certification, at least, and, for this job. But still you have to think, yes, this high growth rate, this is great, but still 102 jobs in an entire community. Is this still does that equate to a high demand job? Small growth, many openings. All right, so here's another example. Annual openings is 131. Projected new jobs is 33. This one has a low growth rate. So growth indicators may be best used to determine the direction of demand. Is demand for the occupation increasing or decreasing? Be aware of that, because again, if we're noticing jobs are slowly decreasing, we may need to rethink or help students identify jobs similar in this, maybe still in this pathway, in this cluster, that maybe has a more of an increasing demand, so that again, we can try to set them up for success. And here are just some additional examples about the occupations and viewing the annual openings, the growth rates, the projected new jobs, just to help you get a better understanding of what you are looking for when you are looking for those high value jobs. All right, so the cutoff point. Not all wages are considered high. A cutoff point is usually set for excluding low-wage occupations. And that's why when you're looking at your reports in the LMI, it's good to sort. And you can sort, based off of each column. So if you're for example, here, they're looking at the wages. You can choose to just sort this one. So you can put it in from high to low or low to high, whichever way, you want to look at it, to help you get a better idea of how these jobs are really laid out. So most often the occupations with wages below the median income for the region are excluded. The cutoff point can also be more subjective and dependent on the needs of the individual or the community. So here's the challenge. High demand careers are not always high wage careers, right? So, in the world society that we live in, years and years back, the push became go to college, go to college, go to college, get a 4-year degree. And that was the direction that we were pushing so many students for so long, and, making it seem like that was their only option. What we notice over time is that a lot of the jobs that we need as a society, that we were relying on, they were kind of dwindling. I recall, meeting with people from like CTE departments, and they were talking about the lack of plumbers, the lack of mailmen, the lack of roofers, all types of things. These jobs that, that people were typically going and getting certified to do and working, that we were losing out on these people, and we need them. And so it's important to kind of understand how these jobs work. But also what we noticed is that once those jobs, kind of started to dwindle, what with not enough workers, we did notice that the wage for these jobs did kind of increase, like plumbers, welders, they make a lot of money. So that's one thing that we did notice. But all the time, high demand jobs are not always high wage. So the solution is to develop a strategy for kind of excluding the careers and jobs that don't meet the high value definition. And this can be accomplished by using the cutoff point that we were just talking about. So let's take a look. Let's see. And this is where we were looking at the cutoff points. So here we're seeing, retail salespersons, marketing, let's see, combined food preparation, serving workers, fast food. Yes, a lot of jobs are here, and we rely heavily on a lot of on all of these jobs. And these jobs will always be in high demand, but the wages for them are typically very low. And so it's important to, not just look at one factor when you're looking at jobs to discuss information about the LMI, but to go across and to gather all of the information so that you can have the big picture. All right, so this is a reflection. Once we've been talking a lot about the LMI and how we can use this information to support our students in school. But, are you willing to make a shift towards eliminating practices that support low value careers? And as a school counselor, that's something, I've really been kind of reflecting and thinking on, like, that balance, because as a school counselor, we are here to support our students, to pour into them, to, appreciate their strengths, their interests, their passion. Like, we want them to be not only successful, but we want them to be happy with the career field that they have selected for themselves. And so how do we balance that with trying to ensure that the hard work, the energy and effort that they put into, learning a skill, a trade, their education is going to help them to be successful in their life so that they can take care of themselves? Like, that's really something that I think that we should all really think about. Like, how do we find that right balance to make sure that we are, again, pouring the right information and support into our students, and not, and for it to not be like, no, you can't do that because you're not going to be able to live. You're not going to be able to support yourself. And so I think the main thing that we do is to continue to identify strengths, interests, and passions through like our inventories, through conversations, and then utilize those career clusters. So let's say if, I don't know, this is really like, from the movies and stuff, not that, I really believe in it, but you always hear people say, you're going to be a starving artist, or whatever. So maybe we have a student who wants to be an artist and they're really great or whatever. How could we look at an entire career cluster or even a pathway to say, hey, you're really great at drawing, but also maybe I noticed that you're really good at technology, or I don't know, something like that. Maybe we found a way to still embrace their interests and passions, but maybe try to introduce them to fields where they can still be successful. So maybe that's more like a graphic designer, or I don't know, just maybe something that we continue to align their interests and passions with, in order to, again, get them to be successful and happy within a career field. So again, it's just something to think about. How do we use this information to continue to support all the needs of our students without stripping them away from, what they enjoy doing? Because that's not what we do. All right. The last one. Okay. So here, we added a video in here, and I left it here because I wanted you all to take a moment to watch it.
Let's get
We
into the
do
P2.
have, let me see. We do have a few minutes, which is really great. I was hoping that we did. So, let's see. Do I want to play this? It's 5 minutes long. I might.
P2C
Let's see.
dashboard and see how we might apply this strategy to identifying high-value careers in local regions. To keep things consistent, most of our demonstrations will be within the New Mexico dashboard. As a reminder, the layout and titles of each of the sections may vary depending on the specific dashboard you may be using. But in general, the same basic organization and structure can be found in all versions of our P2C dashboard. The first step in exploring high-value careers is to locate the Explore Career Clusters section. This can be found by scrolling down the homepage. Here you can examine high-value careers within any of the 16 career clusters. For this demonstration, let's look at the Architecture and Construction cluster. To focus on a specific district, we need to select a district from the drop-down menu. We now have access to data related to occupations within the Architecture and Construction cluster for the primary workforce region associated with Albuquerque Public Schools, which happens to be the central workforce region of New Mexico. Applying our strategy for identifying high-value careers, we'll want to first sort the list of occupations by annual openings. Since this is the default setting in the P2C dashboard, this step is usually already done for you. So what we're seeing at the top of the list now are occupations that are highest in demand for this cluster. In other words, occupations with the highest annual openings. The highest demand appears to be for construction laborers, followed by carpenters and landscaping and groundskeeping workers. While these occupations at the top of the list may be high in demand, not all would qualify as high wage or offering a living wage. To identify high-value occupations that are highest in demand for this cluster that also offer living wages, we need to eliminate occupations with a median wage below $35,000. In addition, we should consider eliminating any occupations with negative growth, given that occupations that are declining in opportunity may not offer long-term stability for students. The easiest way to look at high-value occupations is to click the Perkins 5 box at the top of the table. When this box is selected, occupations highest in demand with median wages above $35,000 are displayed. Furthermore, only occupations with positive growth are included. If you happen to forget what the Perkins 5 box does, you can just scroll over the label and text will appear that describes what this filter does. So now when you look at the data, only occupations that are highest in demand with living wages above $35,000 and positive growth are included. These are what can be considered high-value occupations for this cluster. This includes carpenters, first-line supervisors, electricians, plumbers, and more. When reporting high-value occupations using this approach, it is recommended that you focus on the top 5 or 10 occupations displayed in this list as being the top high-value occupations. This process of identifying high-value careers can be repeated for any of the 16 career clusters to determine the top careers within each cluster for the local region. If you're interested in exploring the overall high-value careers for a region, regardless of career cluster, just select all careers in the career cluster drop-down menu. The table that appears presents data for all occupations within the region. For the central workforce region in New Mexico, the top career that provides the greatest opportunity with a high wage is registered nurses. The next high-value career listed is general and operations managers. This is really all it takes to identify high-value careers using the P2C dashboard. It's a relatively simple and straightforward process that quickly reveals viable career opportunities in local regions. If you have questions at any point, feel free to request assistance by clicking Contact. We're here to help, and we would love to hear from you.
Okay, so that was a quick demonstration of how to use the P2C Navigator. All right, so in summary, these are the key takeaways. We talked about staying connected to the work. This is understanding the trends, the direction of where and how jobs are, where they're going, basic terms and definitions, identifying high-value careers, and using the P2C to discover local high-value careers. Okay. And as always, we always provide resources for you all, again, where you can access a ton of information to utilize when working with your students, or again, just to help you to stay aware and knowledgeable about the trends and what's happening in your local communities. And please remember that on the New Mexico School Counseling website, there is a resource center that has even more resources and information for you to utilize. And then lastly, of course, there's the quiz. You all can take this quiz as many times as you need to. There's 10 questions. You need to score at least an 80% or higher to pass. And remember that everyone who has participated, once you complete all 4 modules with the quiz completion status for all 4 of those, you all will receive a professional development certificate for this session. The series, for the entire series. All right. And then you just start the quiz and then you are done. So this is our next to last meeting. Our final meeting will be on April 19th, and this is the last one for the school year. I truly appreciate you all for joining me today for this professional development series, and I really hope that it's something that you all can find beneficial and utilize with your students. Again, thank you. I appreciate you all, and have a great day.